This year, the nation is coming together to mark Holocaust Memorial Day under tragic and shocking circumstances. We were all appalled by the massacre in Israel by Hamas on October the 7th. The subsequent war in Gaza has caused immense civilian suffering. Here in the UK, we are experiencing record levels of anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish hatred. We are also recording a deplorable and deeply concerning rise in anti-Muslim hatred, Islamophobia. Deliberate violence against and between communities proliferates across our world. Our sincere hope is that Holocaust Memorial Day 2024 can bridge divides, bringing people together no matter what race, religion, or ethnicity.
I want to address very directly the despicable resurgence of anti-Semitism. Because it is not enough to come together today and faithfully promise to remember the Holocaust, we must also act on what that memory teaches us. And I say to those survivors today, thank you. We have heard you and we will not let you down. We will learn from what you have taught us, and we will carry forward your message across the generations.
The 27th of January is International Holocaust Memorial Day, where we honour and remember the 6 million Jews murdered during the Holocaust. We also commemorate the Roma genocide and the millions of non-Jewish people murdered under Nazi persecution, including disabled people, Black people, and the LGBT people, amongst many, many more. We also honour and remember those murdered in more recent genocides in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia, and Darfur. Genocide does not just happen. It is often a subtle and slow process. But one thing is for certain. In every genocide that has taken place, those who are targeted for persecution have had their freedoms restricted and removed. And our theme this year is the fragility of freedom.
I was born in Prague on the 29th of January 1930.
I was born in Hungary, in Mokko, 4th of February 1932.
I was born at the end of 1930 in a town called Piotrków Trybunalski in Poland.
As an only child, I had a really happy, easy childhood. I went to a local primary school and all my friends were part of my class. I went to private French lessons and did all sorts of other things which my parents arranged for me.
I do also remember quite happy childhood. And they come from a family of 11, 5 brothers, 4 sisters, my mother and father.
Our leisure time was mostly visiting other children, going to the park, sometimes going swimming. So on the whole, I remember a very happy childhood.
The day that I came downstairs at breakfast and saw how my family were listening to the radio, and there was such an atmosphere of fear in the room.
Hungary was part of the Axis power of Germany, meaning that they fought on the German side against the Allies.
I remember the people alluding to this word war. Then quite unexpectedly, on the 1st of September 1939, the war started with bombing.
I heard my father say, Hitler's come into Czechoslovakia. The Germans have arrived here and we're no longer a free country. And I didn't understand what was happening. But within a few days, my father was arrested.
The Germans overthrew the government. And of course, the minute that they overthrew the government, that all the anti-Semitic laws became normal as well in Hungary.
I went to school, and when I got there, after 2 days of being away, my friend said to me, when you were late, when you didn't come to school, our teacher said, when there's trouble, the Jews are the first to run away. And I was astonished. I'd been happy in the school. I liked my teacher. Suddenly, I wasn't Vera anymore. I'd become the Jews.
By then the Germans had reached our town and we were occupied. We were the first town in Europe to have a ghetto. And it started on the 1st of November, so only 2 months into the war.
It was very, very gradual. We kept on thinking to ourselves, well, this won't be too bad, we can manage with that. Until, of course, when the end came along, we had no option but being herded into the ghetto.
Other than European Jews, the Roma and Sinti were the only community specifically targeted by the Third Reich's genocidal policy. This book of poetry was written and illustrated by a young Roma boy, Johann Stoiker. Johann's son Harry will then play a musical tribute he wrote to his father.
Have you been to Buchenwald, the place that is so very cold? You come here as a citizen. You're just a prisoner to them. They take you to the changing hut, and fear is rising through your gut. Your clothes are taken from your back, and in return you're dressed in rags. A huge man tells you what to do. Straight to the washroom, off with you. Your hair is beautiful and long. They shave it off. They say it's wrong. And now you go into your block. There isn't even room to sit. From over there, your friend calls you. He once was strong and fine, it's true. But now, my good friend, dear old Klaus, you look just like a drowning mouse. Oh, Klaus, my friend, to you I say, we will go free from here someday.
During the Holocaust, Jewish people from 22 countries across Europe were brutally killed in fields, forests, streets, ghettos, and camps. Today, Holocaust survivors remember how their loved ones and communities were destroyed.
At the beginning, there were a certain amount of movement in and out of the ghetto at certain times of the day. But all that stopped. It just kept getting worse day by day. On one occasion, they shot a man in the entrance of our block of flats. And he was left lying there for a week.
We were the first one away from the ghetto, and the first train which we were so keen to get on, that's the one we rushed to board. And that's the only train that ended up at Auschwitz.
Rumors started circulating that the ghetto was going to be liquidated and everybody's going to be deported. And deportations meant not to labor camps. These were going to be death camps. And people were in panic, trying to save themselves.
When the train arrived at Auschwitz, I'd come in front of a man, a German officer with the white gloves on, pointing left and right. I said I was 16 years old. For a millisecond, I could see his mind wondering about what he should do. He said, "Oh, I'd go to the right." At the 5, they said I was 12 years old. I would have been pointed to the left to go with the women and children, whom we never saw them again.
After the deportations, the ghetto was reduced to a very small ghetto. So out of the 24,000 people, there were now 2,200 left. In November 1944, they marched us to the railway station, men separately from women. The cattle trucks were there waiting for us. The men were sent to Buchenwald concentration camp, and I, with the women, arrived at Ravensbrück concentration camp.
We started marching, and I wanted to run. I did. I ran over to my mother's side with the women and children, and she's fortunate. I don't know why. She said, "No, darling, go back to your brother." And of course, that's the last time I saw the family.
On arrival, they obviously took everything away from us. We had our heads shaved. We had to undress. We went through cold communal showers. In February, they decided to deport us again. We ended up in Bergen-Belsen. And there were people there, but they were like skeletons. And they were shuffling along aimlessly. And as they were shuffling, they would just collapse and die.
If I would have gone with my mother, I wouldn't have been alive.
My sister Chaya, her eyes were green. My sister Chaya, her hair was long. Sister Chaya, it was she who raised me. She wasn't even 10 years old. It's for her that I write my poems in Yiddish. In these terrible days of our times, to God Himself she's an only daughter. She sits in heaven at His right hand. By God, allein is sie Bach Yehida, in Himmel sitzen beim sein rechter Seite.
"30 years ago, the world bore witness as the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda were carried out by civilian death squads. Frequently, the killers were people they knew, neighbors, workmates, former friends, sometimes even relatives through marriage.
I remember my dad saying what he feared the most has come, because he knew at that time they are going to kill us. They are going to finish us all. We didn't really sleep until the next day in the morning when I saw the Hutus, the neighbors, coming to our house looking for cockroach, which was the word they used to use about the Tutsis. I was a child and I just went out of the house. Hiding in the bush at 12 years old, I was terrified. But these Hutu guys, they have just killed a woman and was laying on the ground. And this lady had a child, and this child was sucking from its mother's breast. I went back to the man who was my daddy's friend. We were all pushed under the bed in his house, and we stayed there for a few days. When I left in that house, I went to hide in the pit latrine which was a toilet that was completely full. Behind that toilet, there was a football pitch field, and where these men will come and sit. And they will always be saying, we are going to work. What they meant that time is, working for them was to kill. They will be talking about the women they have raped. They'll be talking about the people they have killed. And some of the names they were talking about, I knew those people in the village. So I was always terrified, what if someone finds me there? I landed to a place where there was a long queue of people that were going to be killed. And these men and women, they said, that's another cockroach. So they were talking about me, and someone dragged me to come on the queue. I was standing on that queue for a long time. I saw these murderers cutting or chopping people's head off. And the queue was getting shorter. And there was only 2 people in front of me. When someone shouted, the bank in Kigali is broken into. And that's when all these murderers ran away to go and get the money. For the whole genocide, the 100 days, most of the time I was by myself.
Each Holocaust Memorial Day, members of Parliament from all parties unite in a shared commitment to commemorate the 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust and the millions of people targeted and murdered in recent genocides.
I'm sharing this stage with survivors and relatives of survivors of the Holocaust and other genocides. And hearing their voices is so incredibly powerful.
From the Nazi persecution of the Jewish people and other groups before and during the Second World War to the subsequent genocides in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia, and Darfur, events like today are incredibly important to understand that history so that it cannot become our future.
Often the end of genocide has required those most affected to face an entirely new and painful reality, without loved ones, destitute, often still rejected by society, having their experiences denied, and perhaps having to start life in a new country.
I was liberated by the British Army from Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in 1945. During my formative years, I endured unspeakable horrors and was deprived of the most basic human rights. The joy of liberation was overshadowed by the losses I suffered and the uncertainty of my future. The pain is not a distant memory. It's an indelible mark that continues to live with me. An enduring challenge that I grapple with, particularly in the light of the increasing anti-Semitism today.
My name is Antoinette Mutabazi. I turned 12 years old during the genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda. More than 80 members of my family were murdered. So for me, the end of the genocide did not bring freedom from the scars that engraved within my memories. The loss of the loved ones, ongoing struggle to rebuild my life. Hardly a day goes by without revisiting the same terror of memories I witnessed as a child. The past for me is not merely a memory, it's ever present. It's a struggle to make sense of life, and it's so important that we remember.
Hallelujah.
It isn't only those directly targeted for persecution whose freedoms are affected by perpetrator regimes. Many people risk their own freedom to fight for the liberation of others. Arvid Harnack was a member of a resistance group in Berlin during Nazi rule. Arvid and many others within the resistance group, including his wife Mildred, were ultimately betrayed and sentenced to death.
If in the last months I found the strength to be inwardly calm and composed, it is because I feel a strong attachment to all that is good and beautiful in this world. Despite the pain, I look back gladly on my life. The bright outshone the dark. Our taxing work did not make our life easy, and the danger of being overwhelmed was not small. But despite this, we remained lively people. You are in my heart. You shall be there forever. My greatest wish is that you are happy when you think of me. I am when I think of you. Many, many kisses. Hugging you tight. Your A.
The fragility of freedom can best be appreciated if we understand what the essence of freedom is. In Jewish tradition, there are two types of freedom, chofesh and cherut. Chofesh is freedom from captivity, from slavery, from tyranny. But cherut is something very different. Cherut is freedom to take responsibility, freedom to give a contribution of value to our environment, freedom to strive to make this into a better world. If our society is going to successfully internalize and apply the important lessons of the Holocaust in order to guarantee that we will all be free from hatred and tyranny, then we must always remember that our precious and hard-won freedom must always be accompanied by responsibility.
We will now light 6 memorial candles. Each will be lit by a survivor of the Holocaust and of more recent genocides.
My God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of man.
We know that sadly, persecution based solely on who people are still exists today. Homophobia, prejudice against disabled people, anti-Muslim hatred, and racism exist in the UK and beyond.
In recent months, anti-Jewish attacks and anti-Muslim hatred have increased significantly in the UK. Swastikas and other anti-Semitic graffiti have been seen in cities across the country. Currently, people's freedoms to be who they are without fear are at risk. Muslim people are experiencing intimidation, threats, and attacks. And Jewish people have been assaulted both verbally and physically. Prejudice continues against people simply based on their characteristics. But we can all protect these freedoms and be allies to those who suffer prejudice. By coming together, we can create a world without fear and bring some light to the darkness in the world. freedom is fragile. Be a light in the darkness.
I'd like to thank you all for joining us at the national ceremony to mark Holocaust Memorial Day this year. Please join us in a simple act of solidarity. Light a candle and place it safely in your window, illuminating the darkness and spreading light across the nation. We can, all of us, be a light in the darkness.
And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, and I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, and I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves, and I'll rise up, in spite of the ache, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. The silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains, and I'll rise up, rise like the day, and I'll rise up, inspired, unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, all we need is hope, and that we have each other, and that we have each other. Hey, we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. Oh, we'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day, and I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again.